Okay, so for this one, I'm thinking of doing a bit of a mashup of ideas to start things out with. And I was thinking we could work from one of these old sketches, which is always a challenge, always a kind of a fun, weird way to start things, because honestly, I have no idea what is going on inside of these. So it could be just a total disaster. And I want to not only do that, but want to also pull one of the racks from here and use that as well. And on top of that, also use the random jumping off point template. So let's just do all three crazy things. And okay, so let's see. Where to begin? Where to begin? Which one of these? I think eeny, meeny, miny. I'm just going to go with this one. It looks like generative garbage. Let's see what happens. Hopefully everything loads in okay. It looks like a bit of a beast. Let's go ahead and play this just to see what happens. I have no idea what's happening in here. It's you know, 5 years old maybe this. I'm not even sure, so you know it may take a while to get the bearings. So let's see here, send effects A and B. Now this may be honestly actually something that we need to just open up. I think there's a lot more routing than can be actually covered by just pulling the sketch in. Yeah, I knew we had some return tracks, and unfortunately I don't think we can that I'm aware of actually pull the return tracks in from here. Just we only get the main core tracks. Yes, okay, well that's fine. Let's just let's try that again. Yeah, a bit different. I figured something was missing in that last one. Cool. All right. Yeah. So hey, it's done. Finished track. Didn't even have to do anything. Nice and easy. All right. Cool. So let's. I wanted to pull in one of these sound generators. Let's see. Feedback maker. Maybe. Let's try this one. Spooky. Sounded spooky already. Okay. Cool. Yep. Boring kick going on here. Or this, I see, this isn't even what we're hearing. Well, it sounds to me like the kick. Alright, so it looks like, whoa, a little crazy. Alright, maybe I'll just, I'll leave this off for now. I'm almost kind of liking some of just the strange textures happening right now. And let's transfer this over into a MIDI track. Reason being, we can just double click and get as many free dummy clips. Can't do that with an audio track, unfortunately. Alright, so let's get the starter template, and that will determine what we can add to this. I like to switch it up sometimes. Gotta save this, I think, over our sketch 92. Wow, getting up there in years. And it'll obviously take a minute or so to rebuild. I don't know why Ableton is so slow with that. Of course, I think most people's projects don't have, you know, 92 different ALS project files in there. Okay, cool. That was faster than I thought. Excellent. All right. Okay. So I had to pause to cough. It's allergy season, folks. Not my favorite time of the year, but it happens to the best of us. Alright, I'm going to move this over into the tonal section. So now it is in our project folder proper. And under templates, let's choose sketch exploration. Random jumping off point, yes. Just staring right at it blankly. Okay. Selecting them all. Click, shift, click. Enter. And then where do we land? Style to start off with. Well, I think wild card. I guess that we get lucky. I'm just gonna say what we've got going on here, which would be the sort of texture minimal categories. We're good there. Instrument choices, roll again. 2. Cool. So it looks like operator and the sampler. Doesn't get any easier, folks. I guess it's good if you're going to set up one of these silly templates to, you know, at least make the choices things you like, things that inspire you. I just put everything in here because there are some things that I am not totally familiar with. So this way it forces me to use some things a little bit that I don't normally use, maybe. All right, let's get a sampler in there. Operator, which I think we've already got going on in here anyhow, so we'll just leave it at that. All right, done with the instruments. Effects choices 6. Well, that's nice. The more the merrier. Okay, Redux, and let's see, drum bus. I'll take it. Roll 3, pedal. And looks like roll again. This is number 4. We've got pre-made effects rack. Excellent. Those are always fun. Really just a whole bunch of effects all at once. Let's see. Repeat effect select. I've been using that one a lot in this sketch series, mainly because I think beat repeat was one of the effects I used the least for all the years that I've been using this silly DAW. And so now I'm trying to use it as much as I can. Alright, so number 5, corpus. Getting some good ones. I do like corpus. And it sounds like we've already got some corpus going on in this pre-existing track that we have jumped off from. Alright, one last effect. Chorus ensemble. Okay, easy. I think that's it for now. And let's tempo 141. I think we can leave it there for now. Maybe totally change it up later, as always. Key of F. I think I'm gonna leave that one out for now. Cool. Keeping this thing a little bit more on the atonal minimal textural side of things. Doesn't mean we can't add in a beat. I mean, you could hear a kind of tortured, intense sounding beat, perhaps. Now, let's see. Does this thing have a self-feedback system? It looks like it should. We have full off, yes. Looks like this is still working as a feedback return. Okay. That obviously still works. Very intense. Okay, so let's just take a quick look before we dive in at what is happening exactly in this pre-existing track that we are starting off of. Obviously a lot of follow actions here I'm seeing. We have a few sections that it looks like we've got the technique going on where it, using follow actions, you start from here and it just jumps and picks and stays on one clip. It looks like no effects. So we have 3 options for no effects here. So I kind of want to actually just click on this and hear what effects 1 means or does. Looks like we have effects 1 and effects 2, maybe? Of course, this could possibly be some kind of routing. God only knows. So I'm guessing that something is pulling from effects master. I'm not even sure. This is funny when you can't even figure out what you're doing in your own projects. Okay, so let's try effects 2 on this one. Kind of like that. It's a little slurpy. Let's see what effects 1. Maybe that's this group. Or it's this group. Okay, so this is effects 1, and apparently this is effects 2. I can see them turning on and off. Right. I see. So it all the way down here is actually all the way on with the effect. Okay, so this is just flipped. It's just some... Must be some early version of the dry wet thing, and I didn't really set it up intuitively. Okay, so let's see here. What do we have here? It looks like all the way dry. Let's... Okay, cool. So I'm going to keep this clip here, and I think really quick I want to automate this dry wet on and off, so that it kind of slides in and out of being on and off. All right, let's... Oops. There we are. Gotta get my bearings, and let's set up a hotkey here. Looks like I already got one going on, but not the one that's linked to my middle mouse button. So there we go. Middle mouse button turns that on. Rip. Kind of reminding me of some modular music I heard somewhat recently. The artist Jim O'Rourke did a really amazing soundtrack for an interesting documentary about slime molds called The Creeping Garden, and the soundtrack is just a superb modular music if you're into that sort of weird stuff. Sounds a lot like kind of what we got going on here, so that's fun. Okay. And I think I also want to modulate this one. Looks like we've already got something going on there. I think that was the other knob that I just recorded. Alright, so let's record some for this one too. Nice. I hear a bit of a beat kind of poking through a little bit, and I do like that it's being eaten alive by these effects. So it's kind of like a really aleatoric situation, nothing too predictable going on. To me, that's the most fascinating situation. Okay, cool. Now, these are good. Like, let's find all the tracks that may have that kind of first start. I think this is the only other one that has that starting point. And I think I'm going to go ahead and just remove this altogether. Just making a cardinal decision. Okay, I would love to know what these are doing exactly. I think these are taking audio from these two, and we've got some follow actions, obviously automating a whole lot of things. Haven't changed a bit over the years, I tell you, folks. Automating myself into the grave. Alright, FA templates. Is this anything? Is this doing anything? I don't know. We have notes. Let's see about the routing on this. May just be some... Oh, I think I remember now. This is some empty or blank so that I can just duplicate it and move these, have follow actions. FA, follow action, these have them already set up. So cool, we'll leave that there. It's nice to just, you know, have that to quickly, instead of having to double click and make all these dummy clips and then go in and set all of the follow actions, and I've got these like odd lengths for each one. So yeah, we get some really odd jumping around with these. All right, so I'll just go ahead and stop that. We'll leave this, maybe color this just to let it be distinguished a little bit. All right, cool. Now I want to animate this feedback. Also got a drone going too. Let's see, where's that coming from? I'm trying to familiarize myself with this old project as much as possible. Drone gargoyle, well that makes a lot of sense. It looks like we're taking audio from FX Master 5. FX Master 5 is somehow writing into Song 1, which at this point I want to further convolute this setup by routing Song 1 into there, using that ridiculous technique of routing through a gate. There is our gate. And let's pull from Song 1 and mute that. Actually, we'll choose sins only. How about that? There we go. Now we can put some effects on this track, and we've got dummy clips. In fact, we've got this whole set of nice, nifty follow action setup clips. And we'll get to that in a bit. I'll go ahead and just hit play on those. Can I make them legato? Yes, I did. Awesome. Thinking ahead. All right. The drone gargoyle is actually maybe just a bit loud, or there's perhaps some effect on here causing volume fluctuations. I have no idea. Wow, turning this on actually changes or adds quite a bit of strangeness. It's a fun little starting point, this one. Now I can go ahead and record automation arm and start moving things around. And since we've got a bunch of follow actions randomly jumping from one clip to the next on this kick track, as I move this rate, it's just kind of haphazardly dumping the automation movements into whatever section of whatever kick track clip it just happens to be playing on in that moment. Very, very easy technique to doing some really fast generative automation recording. There we go. Now it's all in there in various states, and I guess we can just click on each of these to see. Yeah, you can see various these jumping points are where the clips jump from one to the next, and picked up recording from a previous section. Just going through and smoothing these out just a bit, for peace of mind's sake. Awesome. Now let's get that of course, ensemble effect in on this. I just want to add some widening to it. Sounds like we just lost something. Weird. I guess there's something in here automating, or some kind of volume flux happening. Maybe a tremolo. Wow, there's a lot of resonators. Kind of a over the top, absurd amount of resonators. Doesn't even make any sense to me. Why do we need so many? I don't honestly know if we do. I'm not sure what I was thinking when I made this. I could have just been could have been drunk. There's always that potential for that. Jeez. It looks like kind of the same. I mean, I wonder if we just shift select a bunch and then just hit the 0 key. Does anything change? I mean, it really does sound like. Check out our CPU meter. Yeah, it does look like this one is pushing full. I'm going to leave that for now. This could be a good opportunity to bust out the looper and just record a section of this and then get rid of that. And when we free ourselves up some precious CPU cycles, although I do hear there's definitely some fluctuations happening in there, potentially some generative kinds of things. I know that the grain delay has a lot of generative potential. I mean, in and of itself, it's taking slices of audio and kind of spreading them out, and spraying them around a little bit. So it is generative in and of itself. I think that might be the only thing that's utility. Yeah, I can't even see any tremolos in there. It's the same array of effects just over and over. I mean, easy enough to just shift, select, and grab a bunch and hit, Apple D or Control D. And, sometimes it's fun. This may have been an experiment to just see what would happen if I just egregiously duplicated things. And sometimes you really have to do that. You've just got to go a little over the top and duplicate, 4 or 5 copies of a grain delay. Of course, that makes a great drone, I will say, from experience. Okay, let's, what I want to do to get a seamless loop is this. I'm going to, with the gain all the way down, start the recording, and bring this up to 0. Let this record for a little bit, and then I'm going to go into overdub, and then just start pulling this down to 0, and that should fade out the tail that will then fade in, on top of the fade in. So it should make a seamless loop. All right, that should be enough. We want to do it, if we can, in a similar timing that we faded the whole thing in the beginning. And this is my little trick for making seamless drone type loops. Now let's just choose never on that. And we can just turn all this off. All right. Sounds good enough to me. Cool. And I will optimize this later. I'll crush it down to 22 kilohertz and well, actually, maybe I'll go ahead and just pause the video and take care of that little tidbit now. We'll be back just in a second. Okay, and we're back. Sorry for the little jump there, pausing the video. Converted this thing down to 1125 sampling rate and 8-bit normalized. And just made a new looper. and dragged it in. Since it's kind of an arbitrary length drone loop, it kind of doesn't. If it was a beat loop, we definitely want to be a lot more precise. So when you do drag in, say, like a 22 kilohertz, anything below CD quality, it actually plays it faster. So this is the native speed. It basically, in and of itself, it just sounds kind of nice and lo-fi. The hiss is almost like, reminds me of old tape deck. But 11025, which is half of CD quality, sorry, a quarter of CD quality, 25.5 seems to be the speed at which it syncs up. So this is the original version. So about the same, give or take a couple of cents. Nobody's really counting pennies. And we could, to smooth it out, add, a low pass, and maybe make it a little louder. All right, I guess I did adjust the volume here so we can, yeah. And let's, while we're at it, just do a little bit of pulling that note down. So now we don't need our original. And this means, so when we save our project, this gets saved inside of the Ableton project, which is a really, as we've discussed before, kind of a cool feature of Ableton's looper. Also, some plugins record or save the samples, store them, I guess embed them, like I noticed Phase Plant, which we've used on here, by Kilohertz. That's a pretty powerful synth. Also, any samples you use inside that gets stored inside the ALS file. So if you use a 20 meg sample inside a Phase Plant, or you have a really long loop here, you're going to definitely see it in the size of the project file, and it'll definitely affect how long it takes to load your project. But with the solid state computer, really doesn't matter. So we'll see 488 jump up to 1.3 megabytes, and that is all because of this, and that's not a problem. Cool. Okay, we don't need these original sections. I mean, we could just leave those in. They're only just taking up RAM, and they're not using CPU with this turned off. Noticed at least all the old effects with Ableton, you can have millions of them in your project as long as you have RAM to support all those loading in a project, and they won't use any CPU as long as they're shut off. Unfortunately, VST plugins, Max for Live patches, and some of the other effects, the third-party ones like Corpus, if you have like dozens of those in your project and they're all turned off, they will still eat up. It adds up. It's not a lot, but it will add up. If you're trying to do like 100% DSP kind of a live set, you got to keep certain things in mind. But yes, most of these effects, really, when you shut them off, they shut off 100%. Okay, enough nerdy side tangents. Okay, let's record some of this feedback action. We need a longer clip because we're just getting a real short runway here. Yeah, 701 should be fun. Maybe a little fruity sounding. Always get inside of this thing and tweak stuff just a little bit. Let's see if we can perfect it. Yeah, some of it sounds pretty awesome. Let's get more curves happening. and I'll definitely add a grain delay to spread things out a little bit. I think for this one, I want to just draw in my own slow-moving curve. Maybe a little too not so desirable, but we'll see. Maybe if it's subtle. We haven't gotten to our sampler yet. So many things to do. Not sure if you've ever given yourself, say, like an hour's time limit to do a thing, to finish a thing. It is not easy, I tell you. It's definitely a challenge. Try and get things done on time in a short amount of time. Alright, I'm at this point just randomly dragging in this. Well, you know, not half terrible. Almost just sounds more like a noise texture at this point, which is, in a way, it kind of fits, potentially. Let's try some horse ensemble in there. Let's see if we can spread that out a little bit. Cool, okay. Let's try the ensemble. This needs awesome. Okay, let's get some effects going on here. Need this folder no mo. We could try one of these multi-sections. These are pretty hefty, pretty weighty on the CPU usage, but doesn't hurt to try anyway. Rufus. Now that sounds ridiculous. And as far as just like a freaky sci-fi textural thing, I mean, it kind of works. Alright, I'll take it. Alright. So nice to have some pre-made audio effects and sound generators. But we should definitely mess with it a little bit instead of using it verbatim. As tempting as that is. Turn the Spectral Resonator on there. Yes. Let's definitely do some of this. Let's have a nice sort more of smooth behavior when you're dragging this knob around. A slew, if you will. Bummer, I thought I had more length there, but I guess I didn't. Quite honestly, one of the most difficult things I think that I've ever done in my life is dealt with the challenge of trying to listen and talk at the same time. Not two easy tasks. Not two tasks easily accomplished simultaneously. As I've discussed before here, it is quite lo-fi in this sketch series, so for anybody that's actually watched a few of these, yes, thank you very much for putting up with kind of lo-fi vibes of basically me trying to sketch stuff and actually think of stuff to say at the same time. Good exercise, that's for sure. The easy way would be to just not say anything and just do some sketching. Totally doable, definitely done that in the past, but I feel like for me, it has been a fun challenge. Let's go with Granular Mode. I honestly need to become more familiar with what each of these does. We're gonna put a sidechain limiter on this one, and I think have the main group push it down a bit. That seems like a smart move at this point. Let's go from song 1, yes, and kind of like the flexiness that sidechain brings to the table. This thing needs some work. Kind of a bit grating almost. Alright, also this needs a bit of EQing. The whole thing is a mixed nightmare. But it does definitely sound like ideal for some kind of sci-fi horror scenario. Yeah, I think I really like having a flexing frequency knob. So let's hit record and go to town. Just have this thing kind of moving around on its own accord, because we have the follow action clips on this again. Gonna get all kinds of weirdish behaviors here. This is probably some jerking, but that's okay. A good EQ, like the Fab Filter ones, has some smoothing built in, so you can automate it pretty aggressively, and it holds up. It sounds really smooth. The best plugins are those coded to sound very smooth under extreme automation conditions. And frankly, for me, some of the best ones to work with as a sound designer are those smooth ones, because if you really want to do some crazy weird sounds, you really got to push the envelopes of your envelopes. Cool, okay. Let's have a look-see. I feel like this technique with the EQ really goes far in terms of adding some kind of breathing, slightly more organic feel. I wish we could get an automatic smoothing going on there, but it doesn't seem for this that is going to work. And I know they removed that option, automation thinning aggressiveness, with Live 11. Unfortunately, we lost that. So I think the trade-off was the addition of the option here, but still means you got to do a lot of stuff by hand. Boo. cool. Let's play with a little bit of, don't want to automate that. Let's play with some actual auto panning. Very cool. Okay. What to do, where to go. It was an idea that I had, and now it is eluding me just a bit. Ah, yes. Run the whole thing through the most egregious effect of them all, this time smear. If you really just can't think of anything else to do, honestly, you can just use this stupid thing and smear the whole thing out into an endless, mindless drone. Also not a bad way to end a song, just have something like this fade in. And that could build up, you could have a crescendo, build up, and then just boom, have the volume stop. You could really do anything you want with it. But again, under the hood, so many egregious things. Lots of grain delays, reverbs, multi-band splitting, multi-band granular, that's a fun one. It's a delay after that. Bunches of phasers. I do like a one-pole phaser, adds a nice, very subtle feel. More delays, another reverb. Just absurd. But for drones, you know, and it definitely is a hog on the CPU. To be honest, the best thing you could do here is actually just use a hybrid reverb. I mean, it won't sound exactly the same, but it's much less CPU and there's that old boombox in the abandoned parking garage sound. Let's try this in there. And this right here is going to be interesting. Not really sure what'll happen there, but we'll find out. Yeah, very, very dronal. And if we mess with the size, that'll lower the pitch. Yeah, because this is obviously a very, very tonal sound, you know, using it as an impulse response. Also great for drones. Almost sounds like we've got wind chimes. Very cool. But that one note, there's definitely one frequency really busting out. Looks like kind of almost a whistle tone. And at least to my ears, I like to try to tame those. I think the best thing to do here would have a dynamic EQ that just pulls it down. Yeah, this one principal note, also very rather intense, but we'll leave those off for now. That was a fun little excursion. So many times in sketches I find myself going down rabbit holes. I've got a little rabbit hole alert somewhere inside my brain that oftentimes goes off oftentimes. I don't listen to that alarm. Cool. Let's play with some Vcv Rack. What should we do? There are so many modules. Well, Vcv Rack has one module that is insanely useful. It's called the browser, and it is like right-clicking here. It doesn't have the you could type out, what you want, clock, and it'll show up anything that has clock in the title. As you can see, a lot of clocks, a lot of options. It can be daunting. It can take a while for you to get familiar with all the modules and what they do, and frankly, some of them, the documentation is so piss poor, it may be actually kind of a fool's errand or near impossible to try to figure it out, but as long as you, persevere. I will say this brand here, AS, a very, very, very bunch of good modules there. Of course, Audible, which is mutable clones. There's so many great ones there. The Valley ones are amazing. One of the best reverbs. It's the Plateau. Probably a little overused, but there's so many modulation options with it. Submarine are amazing. Bogue Audio are amazing. Vcv Rack, again, I mentioned this before, it's free as a plugin inside your DAW. It's not the full version 1.0, it's a branch, but it has a whole bunch of stuff in there, and it sounds pretty amazing. And plus, there are some oversampling options like crazy, and unfortunately not all the modules sound great at higher rates. Some of them actually sound worse, so you have to just kind of use that. ML modules are also really good, really hyper useful. Okay, enough blah blah blah. Let's get core here. And there's also another branch, a spin-off of the VCV Rack family. It's called mirack, and somebody ported VCV Rack to iOS, so you can have this on your phone or your iPad. And there is a free plugin audio unit version of mirack, and mirack doesn't have all of these. It has actually more of certain brands, and it doesn't have all the brands here that's in this particular. Yes, it's very tricky, but hey, it's free, and for iOS, so I highly recommend M-I-R-A-C-K, mirack. Okay, let's get an LFO, and I'm going to do square wave, and let's get a volume controlled filter. This is a decent one. Let's do square in. Let's get a delay on there. And let's get reverb. Yes, plateau is a good one. And we will start connecting the dots. And let's take this out there and this to the in. Cool. And there's a sweet little module called Walk by Bogue Audio, one of the best brands for sure. And if you look on the scope, highly useful scope, we can see that let's take our time down there. You can see what Walk does. It just kind of creates a random, it just walks around, haphazardly. And you can see here, we've got green for positive, plus 10, I guess, being the highest you want to go, and minus 10 being the lowest. So this kind of goes somewhere in between. So we can add this to, let's put it on the size and then turn up the modulation knob a little bit. And this is, alright, let's turn the rate down for sure. We don't want it going that crazy. And let's also add to the time here. Let's get a sample and hold. Bog Audio makes a great one. Geodesics are also another great brand. Some amazing ports of the actual physical modules. So I couldn't recommend this more just because you've got, the sounds are pretty good, and you've got a lot of amazing modules, some that are actual hardware versions of your rack stuff. Okay, so let's get a clock. Let's see, a simple clock is actually, let's see, so many to choose from. Master clock 4, there we go. Now I'm going to send a clock to the in, and we're going to put, actually, to the gate. So we want to trigger this sample and hold, so we get more of a stepped, sort of blocky version, and it's just taking this and just like cutting it up into chunks. So depending on how fast this is, that will determine how fast the output here is. Okay, so I am going to just duplicate this and add it to our frequency, so it will start to, if we turn this up, you can see some of the modules are built really very UI friendly, where you can see what this is actually doing. And since that's red, you can see it's pulling it down. If we make it go faster, you'll see let's get this sped up a little bit. Now what I want to do is get a ADSR. That'll do. And let's have the gate coming from this one here. So we'll trigger it that way, and let's have a look at what's happening when we're triggering it. Looks like we've got this, and as we move our attack, we're not getting much there, and I think that's because we're getting such a small pulse. The attack doesn't have much of a time to even open, so let's see. Yeah, we got this tiny little pulse. And let's divide this down. That means it slows this down. It's basically taking this and dividing it by 7. And we'll get a delay effect here. Trigger delay has a length, so what we can do is just increase the length. So let's have a look here. Yeah, we got a much longer opening time versus if we take the length all the way down, we'll see we've got our little trigger pulse. Yeah, it's so small you can't even... Okay, there it is. There's one. All right, so we're gonna make this a lot longer and then feed it into our ADSR, and we're going to control the frequency now. FM1, yeah. There we go. Now let's add one of these walk effects to the I guess this high filter, and we can add this in negative or minus. So we'll turn this all the way up and turn this one all the way down. That means it's going to pull this thing down. I really wish we had this little knob to show what this is doing. Cool. We could also put one of these walk ones on to the resonation here. and this is just generating some randomness. So now we've got this delay also. And here it has a very clean, crisp sound, you know. Alright, I kind of liked some of that, those movements. So what we can do here is configure and just drag this and automate that. Cool. This is a beastly plugin, but incredibly powerful if you really give it a chance. You know, there are tons of videos on using Vcv Rack. A lot of them use the actual standalone VCV program, which is also free. There are some paid-for apps inside of that, and of course it has a ton more module. I said pay-for apps, but I meant pay-for modules inside of VCV Rack. And at some point we'll do some videos with just VCV Rack, I think, just sketching around, messing around, because that one is a lot of fun, and it's definitely something I'm still working on getting to know how it works, because there are so many things to know when it comes to modular synthesis, and plus you're working with control voltages, which is an interesting concept, and learning how to do all kinds of logic and stuff with those. It's just a much trickier, different way of thinking than Ableton. I personally am loving the challenge and spending some time with it, trying to learn it. Cool. I definitely want to play with this this reverb a little bit more. Let's just record some automations while we're at it. We need to actually bring these out. There we go. And I will say, for at least a lot of the modules, you know, when you really abuse the knobs, they sound really nice. Things are made very, like, fairly high fidelity. It's hard to believe that it's free, and there's so much. Perhaps one of the next sketches we'll just spend the whole time trying to make sounds with just veeseevst. Unfortunately, those who have Macs cannot run this one, but again, there is a mirack audio unit plugin that's very similar to this. And in fact, a lot of these modules will actually open up just fine in mirack, so there are certainly ways to program your patches in veeseevst so that it will actually open. Like, a lot of times I'll build them here and I'll load them into my iPhone, as long as I only use certain brands, but, you know, like, all of these work inside of the iPhone, and it's very efficient on the iPhone, I will say. So cool. Let's have a listen to that. Surprisingly decent sounding quality. I must say, the coders put a lot of love into this, so I think it is definitely worth checking out, and it's so much fun. You can build some really wild, experimental sounding stuff very quickly. All right, cool. Well, I think that we are good to go, about at the hour mark, and yeah, it sounds pretty weird, I gotta say. So mission accomplished. So until next time, as always, keep it weird.